Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel, and in today's video I want to talk about design spreadsheets, making spreadsheets on Excel. So I've been using spreadsheets, making spreadsheets since basically I first started. I think I remember the first spreadsheet which I ever found online was a Padstone spreadsheet, and I kind of still use it to this day, although recently I've kind of made my own Padstone sort of lintel spreadsheet. Mainly from the stuff I've been doing on YouTube. I remember doing a Padstone design and then I basically created a spreadsheet from that. And then my second spreadsheet, I think I remember it was how to take data from a Tekla model, export all the data, all these combinations, and then design the foundations for it, mass concrete foundations. And that's kind of how it all really started. Making a spreadsheet is there to make you more efficient. When you've got a lot of design work, repetitive design work, it's trying to find a solution on how to design it more efficiently, make better use of your time, and just speed up your whole workflow. And spreadsheets, making spreadsheets, is a really good way of doing it. Like, I know people use Python. I have no idea how to code in Python. Got no real ambition on how to learn Python. I know it's really useful, but coding for me, just not really very good at it. Creating formulas in Excel is like the baby steps of programming, I suppose. It is quite easy, but Excel is actually pretty powerful. I would say I'm a fairly basic user of Excel as well. Google is your friend. There's so many functions in Excel which I've just Googled and played around with formulas, and all the functions of Excel I've barely touched. So Excel is really powerful, and it's something I think is really worth exploring. Now you might be wondering, well, what kind of spreadsheets should I be making? And I think the first starting point would be, if you're doing a hand calc, you find yourself doing the same hand calc over and over again, that might be a sign where actually I could create a spreadsheet and make it that much quicker. And this kind of happened for me when I was doing a lot of concrete beam design, or a lot of concrete element design. And the formula is always the same, whether it's a beam or a slab section. So always very, very similar. So then I started creating the formulas in Excel, and then I could start plugging numbers in. Now this would just really help speed up my workflow. And I'm not saying when you create a spreadsheet it's got to go through the entire code, and it's got to do all the ifs and buts and ands and all that. The spreadsheet should be fairly straightforward. It's create a spreadsheet to tailor your needs, and you can adapt the spreadsheet because you've created it. You can adapt it as and when you need to do it, basically. Like, if you need to add a function to, say, your concrete beam design, you need it to check, not just the design for the bending and the shape. You want to check deflections, or you want to check span to depth ratios. You can add that feature in later, or going more advanced, you can start checking crack widths. You can just add it to your spreadsheet as and when you need it. If you find that you are starting to do the crack width check more frequently, this is something which you can implement. Like, I'm not saying that you have to go to full hog straight away when you create a spreadsheet, but you create the spreadsheet based on what you need first, and then adapt and upgrade later. Like, for me, I'm still upgrading constantly. My concrete beam designer, I think I've still got the early editions, I guess, of my concrete design spreadsheet, and over the years I've kind of progressed it over and over again, adding functions as and when I need it. I've always been a bit reluctant to share my own spreadsheets, mainly because I personally hate using other people's spreadsheets, because I don't understand it. I might not necessarily like the layout which they've done. It might be correct, but I don't like the layout of it. I don't know what it's doing behind the scenes. I'd have to really interrogate the spreadsheet. I would never just take someone's spreadsheet and just start plugging in using numbers to make my designs. Like any software, like any spreadsheet, I would verify that spreadsheet before I was happy to use it on a daily basis. Now, I've said that I'm reluctant to share my spreadsheets. I know people on previous videos, when they've seen some of the spreadsheets which I've used, they've asked me for it, and I've never really shared it. But I've decided to start adding some of my spreadsheets on my Patreon, and if you sign up to my Patreon, you can download and have access of all the spreadsheets, which I'll be slowly uploading because I'm still tarting them up a bit. Some are a bit rough around the edges, so I'm just trying to make them more nice before I kind of upload it. But the caveat's the same thing. Just because I've uploaded a spreadsheet I don't want people just to use it straight off the bat and think it's 100% correct, because it's not. I am pretty confident with the spreadsheets I use, but there are some caveats to it which I am very familiar of. And like I said earlier, with using anyone's spreadsheet, you should check it, make sure that you're happy with the output, you know, before committing and using it more frequently. That was a slight shameless plug for you to sort of join my Patreon and gain access to it. But people have asked me, and I'm kind of thinking, okay, it's time, but I just want to make it really clear about the sort of caveats and make sure that you are personally happy with the spreadsheet. Check it before you use it, please. But if you don't want to use someone else's spreadsheet, I highly recommend that you do get yourself familiar with Excel and how to create simple formula. If I see in the comments that there's a decent number of requests for me to show you how to use Excel, I'm more happy to create a sort of mini tutorial on how I created some of my spreadsheets. In all honesty, the spreadsheets which I've made are really basic. You know, I don't think there's many hard functions for you to learn, and I've just learned all the stuff which I've ever used, you know, through 9-10 years of my career by just Googling it. That's straight off. You know, Google is so good for learning, and as long as you're kind of happy to kind of go through that process, trial and error, it's definitely worth it. I think, you know, you'll find in your career that you'll be doing a lot of repetitive designs, and finding ways to speed up your workflow is a massive benefit to you. And I genuinely think Excel, or you know, if you can want to go through that one step further and learn Python or any other programming language, that's also very viable, and I highly recommend that you go through it. But I think learning Excel is probably the most attainable for most people who don't want to go into sort of hardcore programming. Excel, give it a go. Or even Google Sheets. Google Sheets is just like a dumbed down version of Excel. It's got some of the main functions, but you know, Excel is definitely more powerful. But if you wanted the completely free version, like if you don't have access to Excel, then Google Sheets is also very viable. Anyway, I want to keep this video nice and short, but if you've got any questions, or if people want me to do a tutorial on how to use Excel, I'm more than happy to create a video. Just leave me a comment below, and please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next video. Cheers.